Welcome back, everybody. As Trey said, Delaware, we haven't forgotten about you. The other team that still is alive, they reside in the Henlope, and we're talking, of course, about Woodbridge.
That's right. The Blue Raiders have endured a roller coaster of emotions this season. First, the excitement of defending the state championship. Woodbridge is the defending champs in Division II, and they started off very strong this year, winning their first 9 games. But then midseason, a tragedy for not just Woodbridge, but also for the entire community. We got word of the passing of quarterback Troy Haynes.
Yeah, and that certainly did not stop this team. It only fueled them. We stopped by practice to see how the Blue Raiders were prepping for what could be their 3rd Division II title in the last 4 years.
I mean, it's been hard. We've been pulling ourselves together. We had a bumpy road. Starting with that Delmarva game, we just had to pick ourselves up. We've been a little bit too confident. But we got over it. We better, bigger and stronger. We're coming out tomorrow heavier than ever.
We just expect to see just a hard-fought game, just dogfight till the very last whistle, till all the zeros on the scoreboard last quarter. Just go out there and do what we got to do.
It's playoff football at the end of the day. So when you're one of the last 8 teams, 4 teams, and now 2 teams in the state, you're going to be facing quality competition, and that's what it's about. The thing that I like as a coach, and we like as a coaching staff and our kids, is we've been in some tough moments, whether it's an overtime game down at Delmarva, taking a loss and having to rebound from that, having to go 86 yards in less than 6 minutes against Friends and find a way against Caravel. So again, it's playoff football. It's tough. It's hard fought. Like Dalton said, it goes down to the final zeros and that last whistle. And we feel good, just about the way we do things and our opportunity for sure.
That is.
Yeah, so how do we feel about the season to this point? Because really it's been a lot of up. You had that one down, they lost to Delmar, and you're thinking, ooh, right before the playoffs, trouble.
Well, we've seen Woodbridge. I feel like they've lost a lot of excitement from last year's team. They lost a lot of seniors, including Troy Haynes, who graduated last year.
That's right.
They lost a lot of senior leadership on the team. But we've also seen the last few weeks they've been dealing with a lot of adversity on the field, losing to Delmar. And then that Friends game, they were down as well. And then last week, beating Caravel by 1 point. We've seen them survive so far, but I don't know what's going to happen when you face a Howard team like this, especially if you continue to turn the ball over like they have.
Yeah, well, I think it's clear that Woodbridge is not the dominant force that they were last year, a season ago with the team that they had. You touched on a little bit about the offensive prowess that is different. Even 2 years ago when they won their state championship, their defense was not just the best in D2, it was the best in the entire state.
Right.
So they are missing a lot of that. But I do think that championship pedigree that they've been afforded the last couple of years will ultimately help them, and it's what's been helping them even in these games that they go through adversity. And that is very key. For a couple more key points in Woodbridge's season, we're sending it back over to the wall to Drew.
Thanks, Trey. You mentioned it. The Blue Raiders have been a force to be reckoned with this season, but Pat Riley once said it's always harder to reach the pinnacle of the mountaintop once you've already been there. And for Woodbridge, there's 3 things in particular that stand out to why they are on the cusp of a potential back-to-back title. The first is, of course, as you guys mentioned, that matchup against fellow Henlope and foe Delmar. Blue Raiders had rolled unchallenged through most of the season until that second week in November. A 19-game win streak was dashed to pieces by their D2 rival. The Wildcats, of course, were clawing to keep their season and their playoff hopes alive, something certainly to keep an eye on. And that game was definitely back and forth, as you would expect, so naturally, it would have to go to overtime to decide who the victor would be. Both teams matched scores, but the Wildcats snagged a game-sealing interception to end things for the Raiders. It closed the regular season on their first loss and headed into the playoffs. Maybe, perhaps a little bit of pressure relieving, maybe not. But that loss, it ultimately woke up the team as they headed into their second-round matchup against the Caravel Bucks. Now the Bucks, they challenged the Raiders for all they could have. Woodbridge thumped the Bucks to open the season 28-7, but these weren't the same teams that once met in September. Woodbridge had some splash plays to open up the game, but ultimately caused some miscues that kept Caravel around the ballgame. The Raiders trailed in the game and even lost their quarterback Dalton Purdue for a couple of plays, but they overcame the deficit and knotted up the game. Caravel tried to go for the win with a 2-point conversion, but just couldn't convert. So the Raiders did just enough, and a big interception from Michael Plummer helped the Bridge survive a hot Caravel team and move on to the title game. And of course, the biggest factor of all is a team fueled by the passing of former quarterback Troy Haynes. The mantra has engulfed the team like a veil of destiny. The fight-like-for mentality has pushed this team to strive to personify the humanity and spirit that Troy personifies himself. This spirit has modified and motivated this team to get to the near goal of bringing a title to Greenwood. This will be a tough and motivated team as they try to beat and always have a 12th man on the field, keeping a close eye on them. So guys, for that title matchup, we'll send it back over to the desk.
All right, thank you, Drew. Tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, Newark, Delaware, University of Delaware Stadium, Division II championship. Howard Wildcats taking on the Woodbridge Blue Raiders. 2 out of the last 3 years, Woodbridge has brought it home. Howard brought it home back in 2015. So, guys, what do we think?
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys weren't feeling too good about Cambridge. Do we feel not so good about Woodbridge, too? Because it seemed like
all right, you want me to start
worried about the two
started off.
All right, let's see.
We are.
Howard, they played Howard last year, 28-0. Woodbridge beat them in the first round.
Yeah.
It's not going to be 28-0 this year. We've seen how talented this Howard team is, putting up 50 points on Delmar last week.
Impressive.
Very, very impressive. Both teams play a very physical game up at the line of scrimmage. I honestly think that Woodbridge is going to go down in this one.
Okay.
Actually, Frank Moffitt, who is the head coach of Hodgson, undefeated Hodgson in Division I, said that Howard was the toughest team that they played all season long, and that includes Middletown. They played Middletown in their schedule.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that was something that Moffitt said that I really paid close attention to. Howard's easily one of the best teams I've seen this year. I said it on Twitter earlier in the season. Their single digits, 1 through 9, they are all dogs.
Yeah.
They are nasty.
They really
and they got
are.
a couple linemen that are pretty good as well. I know Woodbridge has not looked like themselves, but they stay in this game. I think they really have a chance to pull it out because of what I said. That experience of being there is something that you just can't replicate.
Right.
So they know about University of Delaware. They know what time they're going to get to the field. They know the locker room. They know all of that stuff. So I think if the Blue Raiders jump on Howard quickly and ride that special wave, fight like 4, possibly could have their 3rd title in the last 4 years. I'm going to go Woodbridge.
Well, let's hope so, because we've seen a Henlopen team win a football championship each of the last 4 years.
Yes.
Obviously,
Keep
we
it
don't
going.
have one in Division I right now,
Keep
so
it going.
Woodbridge, last hope right there.
Yes,
Need somebody to get it done.
Yep.
All right, fellas, when we return, it is time to talk some news. They're spreading a whole lot of cheer this holiday season. How a Delaware family is making sure letters from Santa find their way back to local kids.
To Coach Jed Bell from Woodbridge High School, and you guys are watching Delmarva Sports Insider.